I mean, I've always been interested in nature.
Kind of Mother Nature's perfect animal, you know?
Seeing Nile crocodiles and being kind of terrified.
Welcome to the Nature Talks podcast. Hello and welcome to Nature Talks, where we explore the wonders of biodiversity, conservation and the incredible people working to protect our planet. I'm your host, Erfan Firouzi, naturalist, youth biodiversity advocate and author, and today's guest has dedicated his life in unveiling the hidden world of arachnids. I'm a huge fan of his work. He has described and named over 270 arachnids of different species from across 4 continents. His work spans the Caucasus, Middle East, Central Asia and beyond, shedding light on, of course, spider diversity, systematics and, of course, evolutionary history. Joining us from the University of Turku in Finland is Dr. Alireza Zamani, arachnologist, taxonomist, evolutionary biologist, and someone whose childhood curiosity turned into a career of groundbreaking discoveries. Dr. Zamani, welcome to Nature Talks podcast.
Hello, Erfan. Thanks a lot for having me.
So, Dr. Zamani, of course, I'm really happy to have you here. Let's start at the beginning. You said that your fascination with spiders goes back as far as you can remember. So I know that personally, I know countless people who are even studying environmental science who have a fear of arachnids or spiders, scorpions. So what drew you to, study them, to basically look at them as a child in Tehran itself?
That's a bit difficult question to answer because I really have no answer for it. I just always found them beautiful, aesthetic, and their diversity quite amazing. Even as a kid, when I didn't have access to a lot of species, let's say, I was just collecting spiders in our backyard, basically. Still, I could find a variety of different species with different behaviors, different lifestyles that I just found astonishing. So, I just had some mental admiration for how they look and how they behave. That's all I can say.
Yeah, they are fascinating, especially like they've got the peacock jumping spider, very smart group of spiders. We have got the wolf spiders, my personal favorite, who they don't make rest, they hunt down their prey. And I know that based on what I read on your website, you mentioned that in your junior high you made your first discovery. I think it was a spider in your home, which hadn't been recorded in Iran before. I mean, that must have been thrilling. How was that situation or story like?
Yeah, well, as I said, I've been collecting spiders since I was probably 7 or something. But so one of these spiders that I collected, I think I must have been around 14 maybe when I collected that spider from our backyard. Well, at that time, there was no possibility to properly identify species from it. But based on the resources that I had, which were mostly some books or web pages based on spiders on mostly North America, I could realize that this specimen that I had collected belonged to a group of spider known as recluse spiders. And I just did a quick research on the internet, and then I even contacted some local zoologists. And I figured out that no species of recluse spiders had been recorded from Iran at that time. And it was quite interesting for me and very exciting for me because not only this discovery would add a species to the list of spiders known from Iran, but also because this is a group of spiders that are medically relevant. So they are one of the few groups of spiders that potentially be dangerous to people. Their envenomations could be dangerous. So it was quite exciting to find something like that. But of course, I couldn't properly identify which species of recluse spiders I was dealing with until years later when I entered university, and then I had access to proper microscope and as such, and then it was at that point that I managed to identify it as a Mediterranean recluse spider, Aloxosceles rofescens, and published the results in a paper.
It's amazing. It's really inspiring how something so small at a childhood, you come across a spider at your own home and you don't realize that okay, it's a new species. It's really fascinating, and I think it's these small encounters in your own home, in your backyard, that could lead to an international scientific presentation or international interest.
And it's also quite interesting how unstudied, how poorly studied the fauna of the country was at that time, that such important, and it's a relatively common species also, I must say, but still nevertheless it was not known scientifically from the country at that time. And actually after I started to study spiders of Iran with a systematic focus, I realized that a lot of species that I used to collect as a child, I was the first person to scientifically document them from the country, actually, in my papers in my 20s. So it was quite interesting for me to, round up the story in a way, and in a way revisit the species that I had collected when I was a child. Yeah.
It is fascinating. Even like when I used to collect all the insects, I still used to look back at them. I'm like, oh, this is not the species that I've documented before. So it went through 3-4 different processes of like, oh, this is a different species. Oh, this is not found in the UAE. Maybe I have to document it on iNaturalist, and that's how I also did the leaf miner research, which was interesting because it's been there for a long time and no one even looked at it, which is interesting for us, who can look for new things. And how did that early, success in collecting specimens, finding out their new species, shape your decision to pursue arachnology in a serious manner?
Well, I always wanted to have a career that would enable me to work with animals, or at least with nature, in a wider sense, if I say. But unfortunately, for a long time, I had no idea what that career path would be. For a long time, I thought that if I want to work with nature, work with animals, I have to become a vet, basically. But thankfully, it was during my high school years that my biology teacher, well, when I told him about this spider that I had collected, the fact that it was not known from Iran, formally at least, then he encouraged me to study biology at the university and take that career path to become an arachnologist and taxonomist. And I often say that he's one of the people that I consider most inspirational in my career and most motivational. And I'm quite grateful that he'd encouraged me to pursue that career path. And I did name a species after him as gratitude.
That is fascinating. Yeah. And talking about university, I know that in your undergraduate years at the University of Tehran, you were reporting over hundreds of new taxa for Iran and describing dozens of new species. Can you perhaps paint a picture of what those field expeditions were like?
Well, yeah, we had a lot of different expeditions to different parts of Iran, various types of habitats, including caves, deserts, forests, mountains, seashores. Well, that's one thing about spiders, that spiders are just everywhere. And if you're collecting basically almost all groups of spiders in a large country like Iran, which is what I did, then you have to travel a lot, and you have to go you have to be ready to go to a wide variety of different habitats, especially bearing in mind that in Iran we did not really have a scientific collection of spiders already in museums. So this is something that usually many people who don't have the possibility to travel usually study. But since such collections didn't really exist, at least not extensively, then we had to go and collect them ourselves. So, and it was quite interesting, and it's collecting spiders in the field. It's quite exhilarating in the sense that every minute of it you're finding something new, you're uncovering something new that if you're in a very unique habitat, for example, in the expedition that we had to the Lut Desert, in the middle of the desert, where I don't know, only probably a handful of people have been there, I found this new species of spider, and I could say with certainty that probably no one else before me had seen that spider. No other person before me had seen what I was looking at that moment in time, and that is a feeling that I don't know if nothing really comes even close to. That is for a naturalist, I think. So yeah, like traveling to different areas, meeting different people, and looking at different environments is quite rewarding in its own. But if you're studying taxonomy of certain group of animals, you could also get this kind of feelings of joy if you find something new, and in the field you know that it's a new discovery, which is actually quite a rare thing. Most discoveries actually happen in the laboratory when you're looking at these minute little structures on the animal. But sometimes, yeah, you find something in the original environment, and at that point you know that you have found something new. So it's
fascinating.
Quite rewarding.
It can be. I mean, like it looks like, you speak with so much excitement that I can tell, every time you see a species of a spider, especially like, oh my goodness, a new puzzle perhaps, and it's just fascinating. But a personal question that I just thought of right now is, when you look at a spider or an insect, how can you tell if no one has seen it before? How can you tell if it's a new species? Is it because you don't find it on, let's say, Arachnologist, or you just feel like, oh, this might be new?
In order to, identify a new species, first we need to be able to identify spiders in general. So the primary characters in spiders, and different, also various other groups of arthropods in general, for species identification are, for example, their structures of copulatory organs. So in spiders, for example, the idea is that almost all species of spiders have a unique structure of copulatory organs that is unique to each species. So that is the characters that we usually study, and they have that is the primary character that we study for identification of spiders. So usually when we say that a species is new to science, is typically a species that has different characters in the structure of their copulatory organs, their mating organs, basically. But yes, sometimes there are other characters involved as well. It could be sometimes coloration patterns, the patterns of their spines on their legs, etc., etc. But sometimes when you find a spider in the field that has a set of characters that are very different than all other species in that particular group or genus, let's say, that you could be fairly sure that, yeah, you're dealing with something that has not been documented before. You don't need to necessarily check it under a microscope. You could tell at that point, yeah.
Yep, it's fascinating. I mean, I came across something similar as this. So back in Dubai, there are these beetles called dermestid fisci, who are cactus beetles. Mm-hmm. And just very recently, just around a couple of months back, when I was looking at the specimens, and by checking with iNaturalist, I noticed that despite the fact that both of them look the same, and you turn them around and look at the abdomen itself at the very bottom, there's a different pattern for those two groups. And I got to know that there are two different species, which was personally fascinating for me, because I thought for a long time that they were one.
In most group of arthropods, the species in one genus are, in almost many cases, I would say, if you just look at them, they look almost exactly the same. So the differences are quite minute and small, and you can only basically check them with a microscope in many groups of arthropods. Yeah.
You see, that's fascinating personally. And I know that you also wrote the book called Field Guide to the Spiders and Scorpions of Iran, which is of course the first of its kind in the Middle East. So how important was it to create, something accessible for both scientists and the public?
Yeah. One of the motivations for me to write that book was that the fact that when I was a kid, there was no such resources available for me. So I had to read about North American spiders or European spiders and try to somehow use this knowledge, apply to what I could find in Iran, which of course is not that possible because they have completely different faunas. So at that point I wanted to write something, create something that would help future generations who are interested in, who would become interested in spiders. So they would have something in their local language, based on their local fauna, to help them at least have something, Of course, the books are not complete. It only deals with a fraction of the species known from the country, but at least it provides a kind of a baseline for people who are interested in them, to at least read about the different biologies that different species of spiders have, or get to know some common species that they could find either in nature or even in cities. So that was the main motivation for me, I would say.
That is fascinating.
And since then, we have had a lot of new information added. The books, that book really needs to be updated.
Yep. I mean, personally, you have. I think you have completely changed the face of arachnids of Iran itself, because I think even to museums of at least Shiraz that I visited, they are very less represented compared to other species of insects and arthropods. So even when you look at the specimens, they are obviously bought and brought in internationally because they are not species that belong to Iran. But I think it is fairly fascinating, and the fact that you have now described more than 270 new arachnid taxons is just fascinating. I mean, it's beyond words. And for those who aren't familiar with taxonomy, what does it actually mean to describe a species?
Well, describing a species is basically the scientific way for saying discovering a species. So when you find a species that has not been documented before, you need to, in a set scientific procedure, you need to basically describe the species and basically propose a hypothesis on why you think that this species is new to science and is different than all other spiders that are currently known. So that's what we mean by describing a species. When we have a new species, then we describe the spider based on a set of specimens that we call type material. We describe their traits, their characters, particularly those that are taxonomically relevant. And then in a particular section, which is called diagnosis, we propose characters that we believe differentiate this newly described species from other spiders, other species in that genus, in that group. So, and we also, of course, get to name the species, which is quite rewarding, I would say.
That is fascinating, and I mean, that straight away leads to the next question that I had. So what is it like naming a species? Can you name it whatever you want? Of course, in the species, not the genre, but How does it work? I mean,
There is this famous quote from Spider-Man that with great power comes great responsibility. I always say that if you have kind of the power, or let's say the expertise of naming species, then you have the responsibility of choosing good names. So for me personally, I always try, at least for those species that are more kind of interesting for a wider group of people, I always try to choose some interesting, catchy names that would describe the species best. But as to your question, that if how can we choose the names? Yes, we do have a set of rules, international rules. It's called the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. But practically speaking, you can almost name it whatever you want, almost, unless there are very few considerations which you must bear in mind, that the name cannot be offensive and things like that. But yeah, as long as the name is unique, it serves its purpose. So that every species should have a unique name. So that's the only purpose that the name must serve. But usually, most people try to name the species either using its diagnostic characters, or based on its habitat, based on the area that it was found in. Sometimes they name it after other people who either collected specimens or, I don't know, helped the researcher in one way or another. So yeah, that's what usually the criteria that researchers usually use while choosing names for their new species.
that's interesting. So, have you got a species named after yourself, or?
I have one spider named after me, and the subspecies of butterflies. Yeah.
That is fascinating. That is fascinating. Beyond the naming, there is this broad question: why should the average person, care about new spider species being discovered?
That's a good question. I mean, as a scientist, I would say, of course, we should generally care about our planet and all of its inhabitants. Not just other people. So that's one thing. And the other reason would be that it simply is quite exciting and interesting for me personally to find something new or learn more information about nature. And but for average people, I would say, spiders are quite important. They are one of the most diverse groups of organisms. They have more than 53,000 species known currently. They are very abundant. They could reach abundance as high as 700,000 individual per square meter. Yeah, and they're basically found everywhere on all continents and almost in every terrestrial habitat. So whether we like them or hate them, spiders are around us. So I usually suggest that it's better to get to know them better and learn about them a bit better. And perhaps one way to know more about spiders is to, probably try to learn about new species of them being discovered.
That is fascinating, and I mean, it is one of the key aspects when it comes to biodiversity as well, because in a particular food chain and ecosystem, spiders do play an important role, and they do so much, and we should always pause and talk about the bigger picture here, because for many people, the spiders are something to avoid, but really arachnids, they all play an essential role in our ecosystems. And talking about that, how does spiders fit into the conversation about biodiversity conservation, especially when they are not as charismatic as pandas and elephants, for example?
It's unfortunately not that much work has been done. in that regard, and but we still, to the best of my knowledge, I think at the moment there are about 30 maybe species of spiders that are considered endangered, or are in the red list at least. But yeah, unfortunately nobody is really doing much work in that regard, and I think one of the problems is that their taxonomy, our taxonomic knowledge of spider diversity is quite not there yet. So in order to take further steps in most areas of biodiversity research, whether it is conservation or ecology, etc., etc., a taxonomic backbone is quite fundamental. So I think one of the reasons is that still there are a lot of discoveries to be made, and there is this what we call lenient shortfall, which is our lack of knowledge of the number of species and their diversity. And also there is a Wallacean shortfall, which is our lack of knowledge of species distribution. So these two shortfalls, they need to be addressed before steps into the conservation of spiders species could be taken. At this point, I think the best approach is to focus on conserving habitats, and then once we have enough information, enough data, then we can focus on evaluating each species individually, probably.
That is fascinating. Of course, we'll get back to biodiversity conservation and spiders once again. But before that, we'll just hop on a little bit off topic. Your research, of course, has taken you across diverse regions. So what are some of the biggest challenges studying arachnids in these regions?
Well, most of my research on arachnids of other countries outside of Iran have been based on museum material, so specimens that have been already collected, usually sometimes decades ago even, but nobody had studied them. But that itself kind of shows the biggest challenge that taxonomists usually face, and the reason that why we have these shortfalls when it comes to understanding and documenting biodiversity. It all comes to a lack of resources for supporting such research and supporting people who are conducting this research. I think at the moment that is the bottleneck, that is the main challenge that researchers are facing while those of them who study biodiversity. Lack of resources and financial support.
That's true. I mean, when I also came at university, they told that the field of ecology, the field of conservation, is the least, funded across all sciences.
Yeah.
Which is sad to say the least. Because we are losing biodiversity, which gives this ripple effect of climate change and countless issues. And of course, on a personal level, I imagine that personally it's a similar case with me. But I imagine not everyone shares your enthusiasm of insects or for spiders. Mm-hmm. So how do you deal with the cultural fears and the misconceptions? Because I know that people have come to me and saying, "Oh, that's not a spider, that's a tarantula." Well, how do you deal with all that?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah. Well, that I consider raising awareness about spiders as one of my main goals. So in order to reach that goal, I try to participate personally in various types of public events where I have the opportunity to present spiders, talk about spiders, and we even have some possibilities for people who are interested to even handle live tarantulas with supervision. And it's quite rewarding to see that when people are in an environment when there's an expert present and they can ask their questions, it's quite beautiful actually to see that this fear and this kind of feeling of maybe disgust that they have for spiders, it could easily just change very quickly once they because that venue is probably the first time that all of these people have actually looked at a spider. Because usually when people see a spider in their home, they either immediately go and kill it, or at best case scenario, they just quickly somehow transport it outside. But very rarely it happens that somebody would actually take a look at spider and try to appreciate its beauty, let's say. And when they have the opportunity and then they ask their questions, and I usually tell some interesting aspects of spiders' lifestyle and their biology, it's good to see that at least some people change their minds. And in such cases, I'm quite hopeful that they would also try to spread the information to other people, and little by little, maybe some changes happen.
That is amazing. I mean, I can completely relate to you when you say, seeing that inspiration of people actually caring for a creature. Because, I mean, to be honest, I have a friend who's also, at some point, he used to call himself as an arachnophobic person. And I recall a couple of years back, I took him out to a sort of park, and I asked him to hold a spider. It was Hogna radiata.
Hogna radiata.
Yep, yeah. I told him it won't bite. I even held it myself for the first time, and I think when they come to appreciate the beauty on how beautifully the evolution of spiders have led them to this stage, they come to realize we shouldn't be scared of all spiders, and if we are scared, we have to know how to deal with it rather than killing them as it is.
And that's the problem, that many people think that the reason that we do have a fear of spiders is that because people think that they might bite them or something. But the reality is that I think the reason that we, as a species, we don't like spiders is not because we think they might be harmful to us. Many people don't even know about spiders that could be even dangerous to people. I think the reason that most people don't like spiders is because they are spiders, because how they look, because how they are a bit unpredictable in movement. I often say that the spiders have angular appendages, which is something that psychologically we don't like. We prefer curved shapes. For their coloration, most species are brown to black in color, which is something that people don't like. Many species are a bit hairy, have a lot of spines on their legs. So these traits are what we psychologically don't like. So when we see them in an animal, then we don't like that animal. So, but if we just work a little bit on that and show the nice size of spiders, even in their morphology, many people will change their mind about them. Yeah,
I can be sure, and of course through your amazing work, I think you have changed many people's minds and really inspiring people, including myself.
I hope so. Yeah.
And of course, we go back to the biodiversity, and you have described species from remote mountains, deserts, and forests. So, what is the distribution of these species? Tell us about the health of those environments. Because when we talk about keystone species in a forest, for example, we think of elephants or orangutans. We never think of those small organisms. So, how does these species or these arachnids overall tell us about the health of those environments?
Well, most of these species, I would say, on their own, perhaps do not play a major role in the habitat that they're living. Depends on the habitat, of course, but in forest area, probably not as much. But if we are talking about more secluded habitats, for example, subterranean environments, or areas, again, like, for example, this one species that I found in intertidal regions of Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. In such habitats, probably they play a larger role, but most species of spiders are quite minute sized, and if they're found in areas, again, like forest, then probably the role that they play is not that major. But the larger species, those that are in less favorable, let's say, habitats, they probably play more important roles in that area that they are living.
That's interesting to know, and it's amazing. So, but when we look at it, unfortunately, we know that many insects, many arthropods overall, insects, arachnids, their population worldwide is in decline. I think the statistics were somewhere as 80% of insects have declined over the past, before the industrial times. That's I think what I remember.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, what are the main threats facing arachnids today?
I would say it's habitat degradation for spiders, most likely. And of course, the main problem, again, we come back to the lenient shortfall, is that a lot of species are probably going extinct before we even know about them. And so one of the things that came to my mind while studying these museum specimens that had been collected during 60s or 70s was that I wondered to myself that if some of these species that I'm now describing as new to science, is it possible that some of them have already gone extinct and probably cannot be found in nature anymore? So I would say habitat degradation is probably the main threat that spiders face, but there are other factors as well. For example, the usage of pesticides. We have exotic traits that affect some species of tarantulas, for example. But I would say, the most important one is probably habitat degradation.
Yep, that is very, very unfortunate. I mean that's overall talking about species decline. That is sobering. And it sounds like we could be losing not just individual species, but also the ecological functions that they perform.
Of course. And for example, with spiders, it's important to bear in mind that when we say that a species is going extinct or has gone extinct, it's not just the fact that there is a species name being crossed, off a list or something. Is that, for example, in case of spiders, every species of spider is, and I assume more or less to have somewhat of a unique chemical compound in their venoms. So when we say a species is going extinct, a species of spider has gone extinct, it also means that the accessibility of humans to that particular chemical compound has also vanished. So it could be a chemical compound that has, I don't know, creates possibilities to develop new type of drugs, for example. So even if we just want to think of ourselves and not care about spiders, even for that reason, that gives us enough reason to want to save species, even like spiders, something that most people don't like.
That is amazing. And I mean, I think it's enough making people sad about we losing species. So despite these challenges, I know that things are being done, and I know that you have also expressed optimism for the future of arachnid conservation, people being more involved in conservation. But the main question is, what makes you hopeful?
The fact that I see that there are people, particularly in future generations, that show the same interest in spiders as I did when I was a kid. That makes me hopeful that there will be people in future who will care about spiders, who will study them probably, and probably want to save them. So that's the biggest thing that makes me hopeful that the future is not all dark.
That is amazing. And how do you, because before we jumped into this podcast itself, you're talking about citizen science and so on. So how do you think that technology, especially citizen science or DNA barcoding, is helping to bridge these knowledge gaps we are talking to and about right now?
Well, citizen science platforms, the most important one is probably Arachnologist. That does create a connecting bridge between naturalists and scientists, and it really benefits both groups to reach a common goal, which is knowing the species and maybe protecting the biodiversity. In the case of naturalists, for example, in my own research or my colleagues' research on spiders or other arthropods, there have been many new species discoveries made thanks to photographs uploaded by community scientists on iNaturalist, for example, and then researchers finding these pictures and then realizing that, yeah, this is a new species discovery. So I would say, yeah, at this time, it's a very important tool, and I'm really looking forward to see how it will develop in the next few years and in the future in general. And I hope that, yeah, more researchers actually start looking into the data that is being uploaded into these platforms and start incorporating them into their work, because there's a lot of data there.
Yep. There's so much going on, man. iNaturalist is amazing, and I mean, it is really fascinating when you can observe something from a simple species. Because I remember when I was reading the letters and the books and journals of Charles Darwin, if you wanted to describe a new species, you had to put it in the envelope and send it off to the expert. He will approve it.
Exactly.
So I think it's been made easier thanks to technology, which is amazing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Of course, for all the young aspiring scientists listening right now, maybe someone who's fascinated by these tiny creatures in their backyard, what advice would you give them?
It's a very difficult question, because I would love to tell them that, become an arachnologist, try to study them and try to document as many species as you can and follow that dream. But I could say that it could be a difficult path if you want to choose this as your career. It could be very difficult, it could be very challenging. But my suggestion is that even if you're not a professional arachnologist, you could be an amateur arachnologist and still try to somehow be connected to them, stay in the web. And even if your source of income is something else, nothing stopping you from still studying spiders and trying to document them and being in contact with them. So try to always keep the flame alive.
That's amazing. That is very well said. And of course, I know that you have, over this whole conversation that we had, you have been, your work has expanded. I don't know, it's beyond words. And of course, focusing on Iranian spider systematics or diversity and distribution, where is your research headed next?
At the moment, I'm involved in various systematic projects on spiders from different areas. At the moment, I'd say I'm working on spiders of some groups of African spiders, for example, some from Middle East and Central Asia, Northern India. So yeah, that's the thing. There are a lot of new species out there. So in a sense, there's always a lot of work to do. And at the moment, most of my projects are the systematic ones, and we have a lot of good things coming up next year, I hope. Yeah, a lot of interesting projects.
That is amazing. I think
Yeah.
everyone, including myself, are excited to see it, because it's amazing.
Good to hear.
And look, of course, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you for a message, perhaps your personal message, not just for scientists, but for anyone listening to this, really, no matter their age. What do you want people to know about spiders and other arachnids?
I think something important that everybody needs to know is that, well, one thing that I've already said, that whether we like them or hate them, spiders are going to be around us, probably going to be around long after we are gone even. So it's a better approach to try to exist in a peaceful way with them, rather than just hate them and try to eradicate them from our environment. And another thing that I would like people to know is that spiders are not out there to harm us. Most species, when they feel threatened, they run away. They choose to run away, and they are more afraid of us than we are of them. Well, in case of most species, I would say. So I think a little bit of curiosity in people would help a lot in creating, again, a bridge between us and these groups of animals which we just, as a species, we love to hate. And I hope to see more people at least attempting to create that connection with that part of nature.
That is
I think
amazing.
it will be beneficial for both us and spiders.
That is a perfect, I think, message to end this. Just to people, be curious. Just be out there, enjoy connecting with nature.
Exactly.
There was a recent study that showed that we have lost 60% of our connection with nature over the past 200 years or something like that, which is shocking. And of course, with that, we wrap up. Dr. Zamani, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your knowledge, and your passion. And you have shown us, that even the smallest creatures, even as small as a little spider, can reveal the biggest truths about our planet, and that protecting them means protecting ourselves and the future of humanity. And
it was my pleasure. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you so much. And of course, to all our listeners, next time you see a spider, instead of fear, maybe take a moment to wonder, to admire about the role it plays in your world. And of course, until next time, I'm Erfan Firouzi, and this has been Nature Talks.
I mean, I've always been interested in nature.
Kind of Mother Nature's perfect animal,
Seeing Nile crocodiles and being kind of terrified.
Welcome to the Nature Talks podcast.